At a family dinner, Mom took away my plate and said, "This food isn't for freeloaders." My brother laughed, "Grab a napkin. That's all you deserve." So, I ate at the bar alone. At the end, the waiter brought a $2,900 bill and said, "Your mom told us you'd handle it." I smiled, tossed the napkin on the table, and said, "Guess that's all you're getting from me, too." Then I walked out while Mom screamed my name. My name is Mark Davis. I'm 34 years old, and I've spent most of my adult life being the family's emergency contact. Not the kind you list on medical forms. The other kind. The one they call when the rent's short, when the car breaks down, when someone needs bail money at 2 in the morning. My younger brother Ethan is 29. He's everything I'm not: charismatic, confident, the kind of person who walks into a room and everyone turns to look. Mom calls him her miracle. Dad used to say Ethan had the golden touch. I was just Mark. Dependable Mark. Boring Mark. The one who showed up when nobody else wanted to. For the past 6 years, I've been quietly keeping the family afloat. It started small. A few hundred here and there when Mom's hours got cut at work. Then it grew. Ethan's legal fees after his third DUI. Dad's medical bills before he passed. The down payment on Mom's condo. The lease on Ethan's truck. The credit cards I paid off in their names. I never kept track, never asked for repayment. I told myself that's what family does. You help without expecting anything back. You give because you love them, not because you want recognition. But recognition would have been nice. Just once. Last month, Mom called me at work, said she wanted to do a family dinner at Castellano's, an upscale Italian place downtown. Expensive. The kind of restaurant where they don't list prices on the menu because if you have to ask, you can't afford it. "Just us," she said. "You, me, and Ethan. We need to celebrate." I asked what we were celebrating. She got vague. Said Ethan had some good news. Said it was important. Said I should wear something nice. I should have known then. Should have recognized the pattern. Every time they wanted something from me, they set the stage first, made it feel special, made me feel included. Then came the ask. But I went because I always went, because some part of me still believed that if I showed up enough times, if I gave enough, if I proved my loyalty enough, they'd finally see me the way they saw Ethan. I arrived at the restaurant 10 minutes early. Mom and Ethan were already there, seated at a round table near the window. Prime spot. Ethan was wearing a new suit. Mom had on the diamond earrings I'd bought her for her birthday 2 years ago. They looked happy, relaxed, like they belonged in this place. I sat down, smiled, asked about the good news. Mom waved her hand. "Let's order first. I'm starving." The waiter appeared, started listing specials, appetizers that cost more than my weekly grocery budget, entrees that could cover a car payment. Ethan ordered the lobster ravioli. Mom got the filet mignon. Both ordered wine. Top shelf. The waiter turned to me. I opened my mouth to order. Mom cut me off. "He's not eating with us." I blinked, thought I'd misheard. "What?" She smiled, the kind of smile that doesn't reach the eyes. "This meal is for people who contribute to the family, not freeloaders." The word hit me like a slap. Freeloader. Me. The person who'd paid their bills for 6 years, who'd bailed Ethan out of jail 3 times, who'd covered Mom's rent when she got behind, who'd sacrificed my own savings, my own future, my own stability to keep them comfortable. Ethan laughed, actually laughed, leaned back in his chair like he was watching a comedy show. "Grab a napkin, Mark. That's all you deserve anyway." I sat there, frozen, trying to process what was happening, trying to understand how this was real. The waiter looked uncomfortable, glanced between me and Mom, clearly unsure how to handle the situation. Mom gestured dismissively. "He can eat at the bar if he's hungry. We're having a private celebration here." "Mom, what are you talking about?" My voice came out quieter than I intended, smaller. She set her menu down, fixed me with a look I'd seen 1,000 times, disappointment mixed with impatience, like I was a child who'd failed to understand a simple lesson. "Ethan's getting married. He's moving into a beautiful new house. He's finally settling down and building a real life. Meanwhile, you're still in that tiny apartment, still working the same dead-end job, still going nowhere. We're celebrating people who are actually accomplishing something." Ethan raised his wine glass. "Exactly. This is for winners, bro, not whatever you are." I looked around. Other tables were starting to notice. A couple nearby had stopped their conversation, were watching. I could feel my face getting hot, my chest tightening. "I've been supporting both of you for years," I said, still quiet, still trying to keep this private. "Every time you needed money, I gave it. Every emergency, every crisis, I was there." Mom waved her hand like she was swatting a fly. "That's called being family, Mark. You don't get a medal for doing the bare minimum. Besides, if you'd actually made something of yourself, you wouldn't need to lord your little contributions over us. Little contributions. 6 years, over $100,000, my savings gone, my retirement account empty, my credit maxed out. Little contributions. The waiter cleared his throat. Sir, would you like to move to the bar? I looked at him, at his uncomfortable expression, at Mom's smug smile, at Ethan's mocking grin, at the other diners pretending not to stare. I stood up slowly. My legs felt unsteady, like the ground had shifted beneath me. You know what? Sure, I'll eat at the bar. Mom nodded. Good boy. Maybe this'll teach you some humility. I walked away from the table, through the restaurant, past the staring faces to the bar in the back corner, slid onto a stool. The bartender gave me a sympathetic look. Rough night? I nodded. Couldn't trust myself to speak. What can I get you? I ordered a burger. Water. The cheapest thing on the menu. Sat there alone while Mom and Ethan laughed at their table, while they celebrated, while they enjoyed the meal they'd expected me to pay for all along, because that's what this was. I could see it now. The fancy restaurant, the celebration, the way they'd been so insistent I come. They'd planned this, set me up, humiliated me publicly, then stuck me with the bill. It was a trap, a game, and I'd walked right into it. I ate my burger in silence. It tasted like cardboard. Every bite was an effort. Behind me, I could hear them ordering more wine, more appetizers, dessert. They were running up the bill, making sure I paid maximum price for my humiliation. The bartender checked on me twice, asked if I was okay. I said yes both times, but I wasn't okay. I was something else, something cold and clear and final. I was done. After 34 years of trying to earn love from people who saw me as a wallet, I was done. After 6 years of sacrifice without acknowledgement, I was done. After tonight, after being called a freeloader and sent to eat alone while they celebrated at my expense, I was done. I finished my burger, drank my water, and waited because I knew what was coming. The bill, the expectation, the final insult. And this time, I had a different plan. I sat at the bar for over an hour, watching them through the mirror behind the bottles. Mom and Ethan laughing, toasting, living their best lives on what they assumed was my dime. The bartender had stopped asking if I wanted anything else, just let me sit there. Sometimes silence is its own kind of service. I thought about all the times I'd been here before, not physically here, but in this position, the position of being used and then blamed for not giving more. It was a pattern I'd been blind to for years. Or maybe I'd seen it and chosen to ignore it because acknowledging the truth meant facing something too painful. My father used to say I was too sensitive, that I took things too personally, that I needed thicker skin if I wanted to survive in this family. I tried. God, I tried. I'd swallowed insults, ignored slights, minimized my own feelings, told myself they didn't mean it, that love was complicated, that family was difficult. But love isn't supposed to feel like erasure. Family isn't supposed to feel like exploitation. I pulled out my phone, opened my banking app, started scrolling through years of transactions, every wire transfer, every loan, every emergency payment. I'd never added it all up. Never wanted to see the total. But now I needed to know. Needed to quantify what I'd given to people who just called me a freeloader. Ethan's truck lease, $700 a month for 3 years, $25,200. Mom's condo down payment, $30,000. Ethan's legal fees, $18,000 across 3 DUIs. Mom's credit card debt, $22,000. Dad's medical bills, $15,000. Emergency loans never repaid, $12,000. Rent payments, $8,000. Car repairs, $6,000. Random expenses they'd guilt-tripped me into covering, another $10,000. Total, $136,200. I stared at the number. Let it sink in. That was more than most people's annual salary. That was a house down payment. That was retirement savings. That was my future, handed over piece by piece to people who genuinely believed I was the problem. I heard Mom's laugh, loud, sharp, celebrating while I sat alone in the corner. I made a decision right there at that bar, surrounded by strangers who probably pitied me. I decided that when the bill came, when they inevitably expected me to pay, I would do something different. Something I should have done years ago. I would say no. Not with explanation, not with justification, not with anger or tears or desperate pleas for them to understand. Just no. Because the thing about being taken for granted is that it only works as long as you keep giving. The moment you stop, the whole system collapses. And maybe it needed to collapse. Maybe it should have collapsed years ago. I closed my banking app, sat back, waited. Through the mirror, I saw the waiter approaching their table with a black leather folder. The bill. My cue. I smiled, small, cold. The smile of someone who'd finally figured out the game. The waiter set the folder on their table. Mom didn't even look at it, just pushed it toward the edge, closest to my empty seat. They were still laughing, still celebrating, still completely confident in how this night would end. I watched as Ethan leaned back in his chair, patted his stomach. That was incredible. Best meal I've had in months. Mom smiled. You deserve it, sweetie. You've worked so hard. The waiter hovered nearby, uncertain. After a moment, he picked up the folder and started walking toward the bar. Toward me. Here we go. He approached carefully, set the folder down in front of me. Sir, your mother asked me to bring this to you. I didn't open it, just looked at him. Did she? He shifted uncomfortably. She said you'd be taking care of the bill tonight. Interesting. I kept my voice level, calm. And what's the total? He hesitated. $2,900, sir. Nearly $3,000 for 2 people. Wine, appetizers, entrees, desserts, more wine. They'd ordered everything, run up the bill as high as they could because they knew I'd pay, because I always paid. That's quite a bill for people who think I'm a freeloader. The waiter's expression turned sympathetic. I'm sorry, sir. I'm just delivering the message. Not your fault. I pushed the folder back toward him. But I won't be paying tonight. His eyes widened. Sir? You heard me. I'm not paying. Give it back to them. But your mother said? My mother was wrong. I could see the panic starting. This wasn't in his script. Restaurant staff are trained to handle many things, but family drama over a $3,000 bill probably wasn't covered in orientation. Sir, someone has to pay. We can't just. Then give it to the people who ordered the food, who ate the food, who enjoyed the food. That wasn't me. He looked back at their table, at Mom and Ethan, still oblivious, still celebrating. He looked back at me. Sir, this is very awkward. I agree, but it's not my problem to solve. I stood up, pulled out my wallet, put down $20 for my burger and water. That covers my meal. The rest is on them. His face went pale. Please, sir, can we discuss this? Maybe we can work something out. Work it out with them. I gestured toward their table. I'm done working things out. I started walking, not toward the exit, toward their table. The waiter followed, clutching the folder like a life preserver. As I approached, Mom looked up, smiled. The kind of smile that expected compliance, expected me to have handled everything quietly, to have paid and left without making a scene. All set, she asked. Not quite, I said. Ethan glanced at me. What's wrong now? The waiter stepped forward, holding out the folder. Ma'am, there seems to be some confusion about the payment. Mom's smile faltered. Confusion? Mark, what did you do? Nothing, I said calmly. That's the point. I did nothing. For once in my life, I did absolutely nothing. Mom's face went through several expressions, confusion, disbelief, then anger. Pure, undiluted anger. You didn't pay the bill? Correct. Mark, stop playing games. Pay the bill. I shook my head slowly. No. Ethan sat forward. Dude, what the hell? You can't just. Can't just what? I interrupted. Can't just refuse to pay for a meal I wasn't allowed to eat, a celebration I wasn't part of, for people who called me a freeloader? Mom's voice rose. Other diners were definitely watching now. You're being ridiculous. This is family. Family? I repeated. Right. The family that humiliated me publicly, that sent me to eat alone at the bar, that's been using me as an ATM for 6 years without a single thank you. Using you? Her voice got shriller. We've done nothing but love and support you. You're the one who's always been difficult, always needed attention, always playing the victim. I felt something inside me click, like a lock finally opening or closing. Either way, something shifted. Mom, I've given you over $130,000 in the past 6 years. I paid your condo down payment. I paid Ethan's legal fees. I paid your credit cards, your rent, your emergencies, your everything. And tonight, you took away my plate and called me a freeloader. The table went silent. Even Ethan looked uncomfortable now. That's different, Mom said, but her voice had lost its conviction. How is it different? Because family helps each other. That's what family does. Then why didn't you help me? I asked quietly. Why didn't you let me eat with you? Why did you send me away? Why did you humiliate me? She had no answer, just stared at me with something like shock. I turned to Ethan. You told me to grab a napkin, said that's all I deserve. He shrugged, trying to look casual but failing. It was a joke, man. Was it? I picked up the napkin that was still on the table from when they'd been eating, the one Ethan had referenced. Held it up. Because you were right. This is all I deserve from you. Nothing. Empty gestures, worthless scraps. I dropped it on the table, right on top of the bill. So, here's your napkin back. That's all you're getting from me, too. Mom stood up. Mark, sit down right now. We need to discuss this. No, we don't. We're done discussing. We're done with everything. You can't just walk out. Watch me. The waiter stepped forward nervously. Ma'am, the bill still needs to be. He'll pay it, Mom pointed at me. He always pays it. Not anymore, I said. I turned and started walking toward the exit, through the restaurant, past the staring diners who'd witnessed the whole thing. Behind me, I heard Mom's voice rising, panicked. Mark, get back here. You can't do this. You can't leave us with this bill. Mark. I didn't turn around, didn't slow down, just kept walking through the door, into the parking lot, into the cool night air. Behind me, I could hear her screaming my name. The sound followed me across the pavement, but I didn't stop. For the first time in my life, I kept walking. I got home around midnight, sat in my car in the parking lot for 20 minutes first, just sat there processing, making sure I'd actually done what I thought I'd done, making sure I wasn't going to wake up and find out it was a dream. My phone was blowing up. 17 missed calls, 32 text messages. I turned it on silent. Didn't read any of them. Not yet. Inside my apartment, I made coffee, opened my laptop, started doing what I should have done years ago. I started documenting everything. I created a spreadsheet, detailed, methodical, every transaction, every loan, every payment. Not just the amounts, but the context, the promises that were never kept, the emergencies that turned out to be vacations. The tears and guilt trips and manipulations. Ethan's truck. Mom called crying, said he needed reliable transportation for his new job. The job he quit 3 weeks later. Mom's condo. She said she'd pay me back within a year. That was 4 years ago. Ethan's first DUI. She said it was a one-time mistake, that he'd learned his lesson. There were 2 more after that. Credit card debt. She'd shown me a past due notice, cried about losing her credit. I paid it. Found out later she'd immediately maxed the cards out again on shopping trips. Emergency rent payment. She said she'd been laid off. Found out later from a cousin that she'd voluntarily quit because she didn't like her manager. I documented every lie, every manipulation, every time I'd been guilt-tripped into giving more. Every time they'd promised to pay me back and never did, every time they treated my money like their right instead of my sacrifice. Then I did something else. I screenshot every text message, every email, every voicemail. Built a timeline of exploitation, a record of patterns. Mom's messages from earlier tonight were already there. How could you embarrass us like that? The restaurant is threatening to call the police. We had to put it on Ethan's credit card, and now he's furious. You've destroyed this family. I read them without emotion, without guilt. They were just data now, evidence. I created a second document, a letter, not to send, just to write, to process, to get it out of my system. To Mom and Ethan, for 6 years, I gave you everything I had. Not because you asked nicely, not because you appreciated it, but because I believed that's what love looked like. I believed family meant sacrifice without recognition. I believed if I gave enough, you'd finally see me. Tonight proved I was wrong. You don't see me. You never have. You see a resource, a convenience, a bank account that walks and talks and occasionally needs to be reminded of its place. You called me a freeloader. You sent me away from the table. You expected me to pay nearly $3,000 for the privilege of being humiliated. I'm done. Not because I'm angry, not because I want revenge, but because I finally understand that I can't make you love me. I can't earn respect from people who've decided I don't deserve it. Consider this my resignation from the role of family ATM. You're on your own now. I saved it. Didn't send it. They wouldn't read it anyway. They'd just find new ways to twist my words, to make me the villain, to justify their treatment of me. My phone buzzed. Another call. Mom again. I blocked the number, then Ethan's. Then every number they could possibly call from. I backed up all my documentation, cloud storage, external drive, email to myself. Made sure it was secure, made sure I had proof if I ever needed it. Then I poured the coffee down the sink, made tea instead, sat on my couch, and felt something I hadn't felt in years. Peace. The calls didn't stop. They just came from different numbers, friends, extended family, people I hadn't heard from in years, suddenly very concerned about the family situation. I let them all go to voicemail. Aunt Margaret, Mark, honey, your mother is devastated. She says you abandoned them at a restaurant with a huge bill. That doesn't sound like you. Can you call me? Cousin Jacob, dude, what the hell happened? Ethan's posting on Facebook that you screwed them over. Is that true? Family friend Patricia, your mother called me in tears. She says you've cut them off financially and won't return their calls. She's worried about you. Please reach out. Same pattern, same manipulation. They'd spun the story, made themselves the victims, made me the villain. I was the ungrateful son who'd abandoned his family over a dinner bill. None of them mentioned the part where I was sent to eat alone, where I was called a freeloader, where I'd paid over $100,000 to people who showed me zero respect. But I'd expected that. Manipulators don't change their tactics just because their victim finally leaves. I blocked all the numbers, went about my day, went to work, did my job, came home, made dinner, existed in a space where I didn't have to monitor my phone for the next emergency, the next crisis, the next demand disguised as a family request. A week later, I got an email from Mom. Subject line, final warning. I almost deleted it without reading, but curiosity won. Mark, I'm giving you one last chance to make this right. Ethan had to max out his credit card to pay that restaurant bill. He's behind on his truck payment now because of you. I had to borrow money from friends because you've stopped helping. This is not who we raised you to be. If you don't contact us within 48 hours and start making this right, we'll have no choice but to take legal action. We have records of all the money you've given us. We'll claim it was loans, not gifts. We'll sue for harassment and emotional distress. We'll make sure everyone knows what kind of person you really are. This is your last chance. Don't throw your family away over your pride. I read it 3 times. Let each word sink in, the threats, the gaslighting, the complete absence of accountability, the transformation of gifts given freely into loans they'd now weaponize against me. I replied, short, direct, Mom, any money I gave you was documented at the time as gifts, not loans. I have emails, texts, and bank records proving this. If you choose to pursue legal action, I'll provide all documentation to my attorney, including tonight's text messages threatening me. I will not be contacting you within 48 hours or any time after. Consider this the end of our financial relationship and our personal one. Mark. I sent it, blocked her email, and moved on. 2 weeks later, I got a call at work from a lawyer, not theirs, mine. I'd retained him the week after the restaurant incident, just in case. Mr. Davis, I received a demand letter from an attorney representing your mother and brother. They're claiming you owe them $100,000 in unpaid loans. I expected something like this. Well, they picked the wrong target. Based on the documentation you provided, every penny was clearly a gift. Multiple texts where they thank you for helping out with no mention of repayment. The case is frivolous. I've sent a response letting them know we'll countersue for legal fees if they proceed. What happened? They withdrew the demand within an hour. My guess, their attorney looked at the evidence and told them they had no case. I thanked him, hung up, and smiled. They'd made their play, used their last card, and it hadn't worked because, for once, I'd been prepared. For once, I'd protected myself instead of protecting them. The call stopped after that. The email stopped. The third-party guilt trip stopped. They'd finally gotten the message. I was done. Truly, completely done. 6 months later, I was living a life I barely recognized, not because it was dramatically different, but because it was mine. I'd moved to a nicer apartment, 1 bedroom became 2. I had a home office now, space for hobbies, a balcony where I drank coffee every morning and watched the city wake up. Simple, quiet, free. I'd started saving again. Actually saving. Building an emergency fund that was for me, not for other people's emergencies. Contributing to retirement. Planning for a future that belonged to me alone. I made friends, real ones. People who invited me to things because they wanted my company, not my wallet. People who asked how I was doing and actually waited for the answer. People who valued me for who I was, not what I could provide. One of them, a coworker named Jessica Miller, asked me once about my family. We were having coffee after work. I'd mentioned I was an only child now, not because Ethan had died, but because I'd chosen to act like he didn't exist. That must be hard, she said. It was, I admitted, for a long time. But now it's freedom. Do you ever think about reaching out? No. Because reaching out means going back. And I'm done going back to places that hurt me. She nodded, understood, without needing more explanation. That's what real friends do, they accept your boundaries without demanding justification. I never heard from Mom or Ethan again. Not directly. I heard through the grapevine that Ethan's engagement fell apart, that Mom had to downsize to a smaller place, that they'd both struggled financially without me propping them up. I felt nothing when I heard that. No satisfaction, no guilt, just distance. They were characters in a story I'd finished reading, relevant to my past, but not my present. Sometimes I thought about that night at Castellano's. About walking out while Mom screamed my name. About the look on their faces when they realized I wasn't coming back. About the napkin I dropped on the table. That napkin had become a symbol of everything they thought I deserved, of everything I'd finally refused to accept. I kept a napkin in my desk drawer at home, not the one from the restaurant, but one just like it. A reminder, not of what they'd done to me, but of what I'd done for myself. The moment I'd chosen me over them, the moment I'd walked away from people who'd decided my worth. One morning, about a year after that dinner, I was on my balcony, coffee in hand, sun coming up, and my phone rang. Unknown number. I stared at it. Part of me wondered if it was them, if they'd somehow found a way to reach me, if they wanted one more chance to manipulate, to guilt, to take. I let it go to voicemail, deleted it without listening. Because here's what I'd learned: family isn't defined by blood. It's defined by respect, by reciprocity, by love that doesn't come with conditions or price tags. And the family I'd been born into had never been my family at all. They'd been my users, my exploiters, my lesson. But I'd graduated from that lesson, and I wasn't going back for extra credit. I raised my coffee to the sunrise, to freedom, to boundaries, to the beautiful act of choosing yourself.